Hi, and welcome to the GuideWell Insights Lounge. This is Kate Warnock coming to you from the Synapse Summit here in Tampa. We have another wonderful guest, Dr. Ioulia Kachirskaia. Welcome.
Thank you, Kate.
We're happy to have you. So Ioulia, you've just joined us. You're the Director of Innovation for GuideWell. We're happy to have you. So let's jump into your questions. You know, Ioulia, I know you're actually going to be on a panel. Is it later today at the Synapse Summit? Oh, it's tomorrow, and it's all about entrepreneurship. Tell me about entrepreneurship. What are the top points that you think you'll cover?
So I think, Kate, we're all familiar with the term entrepreneurship, right? Which is about individuals or small teams being really nimble and being really quick to react to changing landscape and creating value quickly. When we think about large organizations, particularly large organizations, we are not so quick to sort of equate them with this nimble culture, with delivering value quickly, creating something new. They just have that sort of stereotype. But large organizations, they have a lot of opportunities for connecting the dots and a lot of resources that can really give internal entrepreneurs opportunity to thrive. And we see it all the time in organizations, whether you're developing a new product for external customers or you're developing a new program for employees, such as new employee onboarding, or even a new way of working faster, sprinting, really partnering with your customers. All these are examples of how organizations can be entrepreneurs, create something of value, and that gets scaled across the organization. The challenge with organizations is that they have to strike this balance between having a lot of standard work and processes that are kind of consistent across the organization just to make a large organization work. So it's often hard to be spontaneously entrepreneurial.
Right.
That's why I think entrepreneurship is an intentional thing.
Right.
So in order for organizations to foster this entrepreneurship, they have to create pockets of entrepreneurship. For example, innovation teams are often sort of these hotbeds of entrepreneurship that have experts who have done this new thing and have launched new offerings and are able to pivot quickly and create new value. There's also instances where you can have entrepreneurs across pockets in organization. Every team that's responsible for running a big program can have some entrepreneurs within it. But it's important not to stop here. In order for organization to be sort of transformed into an entrepreneurial organization, it's important to enable all the workforce to have access to the skills and abilities to start something new in their own role. No matter what you do, you can create a new value and kind of sort of angle that can spread and scale across the organization. And it's really helpful for that to happen, to have some sort of a common methodology that individuals can access. Human-centered design, for example, is really helpful because ultimately you're creating value for people, and human-centered design is all about rooting yourselves into the human need, but also culture, right? Entrepreneurship, like entrepreneurship, they are all about exploration, right, and some sort of risk-taking. And creating a culture where leadership embraces this kind of attitude, every individual embraces attitude, is really important. The last thing I want to say about entrepreneurship is working for large organizations. It's really a privilege, and especially if we are serving patients, right? And if we can be entrepreneurial ourselves, then we can be more nimble, we can create new value both internally as well as externally to serve our patients better.
Absolutely. Well, a lot that you're going to cover, and I know that there's going to be so much value from that, but I also know here at the Synapse Summit, you're going to be involved with a workshop, and it's around that human-centered design, isn't it? And I know that you have a real expertise in that. What's the most important takeaway that you're hoping the attendees of that workshop will get?
So human-centered design is a sort of systematic. Human-centered design is a systematic problem-solving methodology that really taps into creativity, taps into connecting the dots in an unusual way to create new value. And human-centered design kind of recognizes that at the end of any product or at the end of any service, there are people, right? And so how do we even start with those people in mind and partner with them as we're developing something new? Human-centered design is applicable to anything you can do, whether you're developing a new insurance product, a new wellness program, a new onboarding experience for employees, or even strategy, because strategy is executed by people, right? So how do you tap into the human-centered aspect of even things that don't sound like human-centered in the end, and leverage it to create more strategies and products and services that are more accepted by people and are more sustainable, because when it's designed for people, they're more likely to use it.
So it's right, keep the end user in mind,
yes.
Right?
And the concepts that because human-centered design is rooted in customers, you can have products and services that are, like I mentioned, more sustained, and also they help us get out of our own biases. For example, the classic example of long wait times or length of stay in the hospital, right? If you're charged with solving this problem, your first reaction might be, let's shorten the length of stay, right? It's going to be great for the patient. But we found that oftentimes patients, it's not about how much time, it's about how valuable the time spent. And a lot of times when we just shorten the time, they might feel we are shortchanged or kicked out. So it's really important to tap into that. So 3 concepts I want people to take away, or 3 types of skills are, first, interviewing for empathy. So when you're designing for somebody, how do you see that person, not just as a customer, but as a more holistic person? So you're not designing a platform for a platform user, you're designing a platform for an ambitious entrepreneur who is really passionate about a niche area, or who you have in front of you is not a patient, it's a busy mom of 3 who just took time off work to be here for her medical appointment.
Right.
So looking at people holistically is really important to try to understand how solutions can fit into their lives. The second part is co-design. When we think about co-design, it's really how do we partner with customers all the way from the beginning, figuring out what the problem is to actually solving it. And so what it does is sort of takes down the barriers of this paternalistic attitude that sometimes organizations or individuals have. We know best because we are experts, and we are experts, but there's the whole dimension of the customer experience that we need to consider. So having customers at the table through co-design is a really important way and a really helpful way to design solutions that fit into human lives. And then the final, and then the final concept I want to share, because it's really important, and we see it all the time in organizations that are launching efforts. They oftentimes invest a lot of resources and have a big reveal for a new program or a new offering. And while sometimes it works, sometimes it still requires a lot of finessing or maybe not be on point. So a technique from human-centered design world, it's called rough prototyping or rapid prototyping, which allows you to test the concept with your customers in a very cheap and rapid way, even using pen and paper, to see is there value from the solution, or are people who are involved in delivering the solution are able to deliver it seamlessly. So the bottom line is, whatever line of business you're in, human-centered design can really add value to whatever you're developing.
No doubt, and certainly much better for the customer that you're trying to serve. So wonderful experience that you're going to be bringing tomorrow. So, another experience that I know that you had, Ioulia, while you were on the staff of the Stanford Business School, is that you would coach early stage startups across many different sectors. What was the most memorable piece of advice, and does it hold for entrepreneurs today? Because I know this was a few years back for you. Yeah.
I think it does. Startups are often started around an idea that people are excited about. What people find when they go and test it is that sometimes the idea is not on point, sometimes it needs to be refined, and sometimes it is on point, but still needs to sort of be finessed. And so what we did with the startups we coached, we had them pretty early on go and find their customers, right? Find their customers, observe what their life is like, really understand what their need is around this area they're trying to solve, and come back. And we had teams come back very excited and quoting their customers, and some of them, were validated around the need that they uncovered, whereas some of them had a complete change of direction based on what they discovered the real need was. And so this staying in touch with customers and really starting off by understanding the customer need is really irreplaceable. So the advice is, it's not enough to know the market, you have to know your customers. You have to find out a niche area where you believe you want to add value, and then go and really learn from your customers, partner with them, and you'll be inspired and create great offerings.
I absolutely know that would hold today as much as it did back when you were at Stanford, so great advice. And we have one final question for you, Ioulia. So right here in in Florida. You are a 2003 UCF graduate, but you're a veteran of the West Coast innovation scene. What is it that you think, can Florida compete in the innovation space? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, I believe that every region deserves to have a thriving innovation scene. And it's not like somebody is too early or too late to this innovation scene. It's not like fashion that, you come too late and so you miss the boat, right? I mean, there are, of course, times where you have certain types of companies that thrive more and there's demand for certain type of companies, but there's always demand for innovation. And so whatever the topic may be. And so you can come to this innovation scene at any time and create a thriving environment. I think what's needed is, and what's been proven in various areas around the country, is this critical mass of multiple players, because you can't rely on one player. It's not about having enough people with ideas to create an innovation ecosystem. It's about having companies being ready to partner with new ventures and having favorable patent laws, right? It's about academia really creating a thriving infrastructure to help connect students and faculty and have education around what it means to be an entrepreneur and have innovation methodologies readily available. It's about allowing faculty to sort of have their toes both in academia and in the corporate world, the startup world at the same time. It's about, of course, the government creating very favorable situations for startups. And of course, as we all know, it's about talent, right? What you see in innovation ecosystems is, the workforce is pretty fluid, right? You see, especially in early stage startup ecosystems, people work for a couple of years in one company and then they go to another company. It's very sort of interchangeable, and that kind of creates a very good sharing of best practices across companies. So for that to happen, you got to have sort of a critical mass of talent who are ready to populate sort of this innovation ecosystem.
Right.
And I also believe that every innovation ecosystem would have its own flavor, right? That's really determined by the kind of players they have and also the type of customers they're serving. And I'm really excited to be a part of Florida's growing sort of innovation ecosystem to see what kind of flavor it will have when it's completely thriving. And my guess is that healthcare will be very much on the map in that ecosystem.
Absolutely. Well, Ioulia, you have so much information to share here at the Synapse Summit, and as part of the GuideWell leadership team, I'm so glad that you've joined our company. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Kate. My pleasure.
My pleasure too. This is Kate Warnock. Thank you for watching.